This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 899, Graphical Bang for Your Buck. Enjoy. What if the perception that people have of RuneScape, and this is something Tanis can chime in on too, what if the perception people have of RuneScape is just from old screenshots on the internet, and they're not necessarily up on what the modern engine is capable of with that? And what if that's pushing people away? And this is how you fix that. Like, it is like, I don't want that to be a problem, but I could see it being a problem, you know?
Well, I mean, you go ahead, Tanis.
Okay, I'll make this quick thing because you probably have a little bit better take on this. But for me, for my money, it's worth. When you're looking at something like that, I think that if someone was interested in nostalgia, they're going to play old school. And so when they look at RS3 and they see, something that looks that old, they're not going to want to play that. Whereas, sometimes you can suck up, bad graphics if you're like, oh man, it's something I played when I was a kid type of thing. But if that's the case, you're going to play OS RS. You're probably not going to play RS3. We're doing a better job, and I think, and I hope that, Fresh Start Worlds, if it can bring anyone back, they will get to see what RS3 is capable of.
Okay. And I'm showing what that's capable of right now, and it's leaning on exactly what you said, Zan. The lighting is warmer, the highlights are more brought out, the shadows are roughly the same, and one of the places you can also very clearly see this is Varrock. So there's that. But yeah, Zan, give us your take on that if you feel this could turn people away, because I imagine that's a different perspective from somebody who looks at environment than what we're providing right now.
So the way I see it, it seems like RuneScape's always had this kind of identity of just kind of having mediocre graphics.
Yep.
Like when you talk to people who don't really play the game, or they know the game, or they have been acquainted with the game, you make the jokes. Like when we get graphical updates, is this still RuneScape? Like we even say it with our own modern game here. So yeah, I think people just have a perception that this game isn't really focused on the graphics, and it's just solely focused on the content of the game. But I feel like a lot of those people who kind of feel like that just really haven't played 3. They have this impression that it is kind of just the same old look it's always had, with more draw distance and stuff, if they're even really aware of the NXT. But I think this Fresh Start World coming out right after we're getting this graphical update, I think that can kind of change that for some people. And then once they get into other places like, like Elder God Wars Dungeon and some of the archaeology sites, and basically all of the more recent areas, I think they're really going to start to see that, wait a minute, this game has some really nice looking areas in it. And I think just seeing what the game is capable of in those areas kind of will restore faith in that a little bit.
Yeah, another thing you have to come see yourself, Zand, if you haven't seen so far, is the air altar and the lighting coming down from the sky on that now, and how that looks with the modern lighting around it and the environment art on the ground. So have a look at that just east of Barbarian Village. So
yeah, I gotta say that whole area over there, I think they did a fantastic job on. I think it is the air altar, the one that's way up on the hill, correct?
Oh, that's Mind.
That's Mind. That one specifically, I adore because it just has all the flowers up on that hill, and you can see all the variation in there.
Okay.
And then the altar's at the top of the hill. I just got here to the air altar though, and yeah, I totally see what you mean. It's got that nice blue lighting coming down from the sky onto it.
Yep.
I don't think that light casting onto the floor was actually there before. I mean, I remember the rays being there, but that's definitely new.
Right, and that's what I was pointing out, because, and if it was there before, someone can correct us, because what that means is that this graphical update has effectively allowed everything else in game to pop and bring forth what was already there, making it that much better.
Now, yeah, I seriously think this little change here with that blue light, that really does set that altar as like a focal point when you're walking by. Whereas before, it kind of just, blends in a little bit.
Yeah, you said it best, Shane, when you said bang for your buck. I mean, this really is an example of really smart, judicious use of resources and just getting the most out of it. I mean, you wouldn't think that a little bit of lighting can do what it did, but
And ground textures.
in ground texture, yeah, I mean, but you know what I mean? Like this versus a full rework that if we had pushed for, it would still be in the works. It might be 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the road.
Right, and then some tech might change and get canned, like happened with the Sears Village rework.
Yeah, exactly. These are the kinds of things that we actually can get. They're feasible and they really make a huge difference.
Yeah, and keep in mind this started as a game jam project between Mod Blackwitch and Mod Alex, so it wasn't even something that was initially put on the schedule. It was just something when the JMods had a few days to work on something of their own choosing that these two chose to work on and bring forward, and they were able to QA it in a remarkable amount of time. I think it was only like a month and a bit, if I remember when this game jam actually was, thinking about it. So,
wow.
Yeah, this came out way sooner than I expected it to. When
right, because I think
was first tweeting about this, it seemed like it was. I mean, she was definitely asking for some feedback from people with the tweets, and it just didn't seem like this was something that was going to happen so soon. And when it did happen, like, it's way more areas than I expected it to be. So it really does seem like they've kind of fine-tuned their scope for what they want to do with these graphical updates and brought it down to a more reasonable level where they're just using the assets they have. And I think that's a lot more realistic than doing a whole rework of Sears Village like they had planned years back, and it just kind of never happened because it was just such a large scope of an update. They wanted to work the castle into the mountain and everything like that. But, updating the textures and implementing some new foliage and rocks and stuff here and there, as well as the lighting, I think that's much more of a reasonable expectation for them to actually go around the areas of the game and actually get these updates in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gives the illusion of a bigger update. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it feels bigger than probably what it actually is.
Right, and I guess this would be, and I don't know the answer to this, and it'd be interesting to hear this. How exactly do you update ground textures in an area in RS? And I mean, that's not something people are going to be able to answer easily because we know RS is a completely custom engine, so it could be very complicated. It could be very easy to do that. We don't know. So
yeah, from my experience working with game engines, I mean, I've worked with Unreal and Unity where they have their own custom terrain tools for working with the ground textures, and you can basically just paint them on. But I really have no clue what RuneScape would do. We've learned there's so many quirks to this engine and how it renders things. I could imagine it was quite a challenge to get this working properly.
Oh yeah, definitely. But at the end of the day, I think players in general were happy about this update in terms of what it provided to them, and that when you start to think about it, maybe these are the kind of updates that players just want. Maybe they just want these. There's a portion of the player base that probably just wants these quality of life updates, right?
Right.
So,
and for all intents and purposes, I seriously think, I guess one of the things I was a little bit worried about with this coming into it was, are these updates to the ground textures and all this new foliage going to clash with what we have there already? And I don't really think it does. No, I think it works.
It feels like it fits in quite nicely.
I mean, there are a couple areas where it's a little funky, like near the Invention Guild, for example, how one side has one cliff style, the other side has the new rocks.
Right.
I mean, stuff like that. You can kind of tell they're a different style, but it's not jarring. I mean, for us who've been used to staring at RuneScape as it is for years, I think this is a huge upgrade for sure.
Yeah, see, and I didn't even pick that up when I walked by. So
exactly. See, there you go.
Yeah. Another area that's looking good is the area just south of the Champions Guild and whatnot as well. And like you guys say, it's hard to believe that this is RS. And if RS was to just look like this as it was with compared to how it was last week, I think if you did an A/B comparison on that and you could turn it on or turn it off and show that, I think you'd be having an entirely different conversation where people thought that this was some huge graphical update, but it's really just a paint job, which is doing wonders for the world. You can find full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or just enjoyed it, like and subscribe, or leave a comment.